Welcome to Falls Count Anywhere, where the wrestling ring meets the heart. Hosted by the gentleman Jody Powell, join us as we dive into the latest pro wrestling news and rumors, from the electrifying world of WWE to the inspiring stories of wrestling for Christ. This is your all-access pass to the action, the faith, and the hope. This is Falls Count Anywhere.
Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to Falls Count Anywhere. I'm your host, the gentleman Jody Powell, and with me, as always, the mad scientist, Mike Buchanan, deep in the Buchanan Laboratory. Mike, what's up, buddy?
Not a whole lot, Jody. What's up over there?
Oh, man, just a lot of springtime sunshine weather headed to the sunny south, which means everything's going to turn green, and I'm going to sneeze for 2 months.
Sounds about right.
So what's going on down there in the Buchanan Laboratory, man? What you got cooking?
Well, I saw that one of your WFC members has been having problems with an arm.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that.
So I thought that what I might do to help him out is our listeners who are familiar with the Marvel comic universe are familiar with the Winter Soldier, who has that metal arm, shoulder to hand.
Okay.
I thought I'd work on one of those for situations like that.
Ah, the American GI could use a little metal arm. You know, that could reinvent his character to become Cowboy Bob Orton with a cast. That cast, he had a broken forearm for 47 years.
He did.
I like it, man. I like it. A little cyborg metal arm action going. That's very cool. Yeah, we're going to talk about the American GI and the Foundation when we get to WFC. But what about what's going on in WWE, brother?
Say what?
I said, what about what's going on in WWE? We're on the road to WrestleMania.
Should we talk about the bad news first, or do you want to talk about the good news first?
Let's get to the good news first. Let's put a little positivity, even if the New Day aren't wearing their little unicorn horns anymore. Let's spread the power of positivity here.
Sure, why not?
I got to tell you, I'll kudos to WWE because last week on Monday Night Raw, of course, it was from Madison Square Garden, and they closed out the show with a cage match. CM Punk, Seth Rollins, this is supposed to be the final battle or whatever, blah, 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 the end of the feud, whatever. But the ending was very interesting with Seth Rollins glaring over at CM Punk, smiling at the damage that he had caused inside the cage. And then all of a sudden, the cage door opens, someone reaches in, yanks Seth Rollins out of the cage down to the floor, giving him the win, by the way. And it was none other than Roman Reigns who delivered the Superman punch, spear on the floor. And we thought that was the end of it until Paul Heyman was in the ring consoling CM Punk, the wise man. Well, that didn't sit too well with the OT.
Well,
He went back into the cage and speared Punk right out of his boots.
Can't have a cage match which is supposed to keep everybody out of the cage without outside interference by at least one person.
I mean, it's kind of the definition of professional wrestling. Something that's intended to do something fails to do something.
Absolutely.
We're going to have a bunkhouse match, street rules, because everyone's cheating. And what ends up happening? Some kind of schmoz finish. Cages don't hold people in, nor do they keep them out.
Yep.
Tag teams, well, tag teams always break down into what we also saw last week, a tornado tag team match. I missed that. That's the first tornado tag team match we've had in a long time. I love tornado tag team matches. All the chaos, all the action going on. We'll have to see if we can get some more tornado tag matches going on in some of these organizations. You want to talk about the bad?
Idea. Wait, didn't you want to talk about some of the WWE, or want to talk about the bad now?
Well, I want to talk about the bad in the WWE now.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean
the
that was
bad-
all. Listen, that's all I've got for the good. I mean, the main event was great. The rest of Raw last week on Netflix was a lot of blah 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 blah. A few matches here and there. The Netflix experience or the Netflix experiment. I'm still kind of giving it that C minus from a wrestling perspective, from a storytelling perspective. I'm starting to see a little bit of Triple H's tendencies in terms of storytelling, Mike. He likes to tell stories more by promos and mic work.
Right.
As opposed to telling stories inside the ring with wrestling action, with ways matches come to the conclusion, who colludes, who attacks, those kind of stories, the unwritten or the unsaid stories of professional wrestling. That's an art form that is quickly diminishing. And the more we're on Netflix to where there's not really a confine or a constraint on time, yeah, we're using more promos, and I'm not really a fan of it, especially considering the language that seems to be starting to creep into these promos.
And
Netflix.
To take a supposed baby face that's all American like Rhodes, have him drop an F-bomb at the end of a pay-per-view, then to have him come on last week, use the Lord's name in vain, which is awful enough. There's no need for that. I mean, to me personally, we've talked about our audience about this before. It shows a lack of intelligence.
Really does.
If that hurts somebody's feelings, buckle up, Buttercup. But then in the same conversation, to end it with a God bless you.
Yeah.
Jesus said that foul water and clear water can't come out of the same fountain. And Cody's trying to do it. Jody, what do you think?
Well, I think Cody needs to change his name because it sounds a little too much like mine. But yeah, it's what's so aggravating about it, Mike, is that it's just so unnecessary. Cody Rhodes doesn't need to express himself in that way to get over. He's over with the fans. And to stay over does not mean you have to drop F-bombs and GD this and to just really lower yourself to that kind of lack of intelligence, as you said. I mean, I think I said this before. My grandfather used to say that somebody that's cussing is a weak mind that's trying to exercise itself strongly. And it just doesn't. It's crude, it's crass, it's offensive. It's not worth the supposed pop that you get from the people that aren't offended. And I just think we saw it with him at the end of the pay-per-view. We saw it with CM Punk in his interview time, dropping his pipe bombs. I mean, 10, 12 years ago when he had that incredibly famous promo where he dropped pipe bombs and was walking out of WWE. That was on, I think that was on USA. It may have even been back when it was on TNN, but he couldn't cuss, and it was just as effective.
But, I think the Attitude Era started it, and I didn't like it then. I don't like it now, but when Austin came out with Austin 316,
yeah,
we let him get away with it. I mean, you and I weren't
mockery.
doing anything back then, but
yeah, it was a complete mockery, and it still is. And you're right. It started in the Attitude Era, but I think what the Attitude Era proved was that you don't have to shorten the demographic of wrestling fans to that 18 to 44 male. You can keep a broad demographic from 8 to 80, male to female, still provide a quality show, still provide in just interesting and encapsulating storylines without all of the crass language, without all of the scantily clad outfits. I mean, it's just not necessary. It's not necessary to get over. And I just hate to see it to start creeping back in. And I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, you're just you're old fashioned or you're a curmudgeon or no, it's more.
I am. I'll admit it. You can write to me at the email address right here, and I'll answer your emails.
I'm not the get off my lawn guy, but I am the guy that's going to say, there's some things that I don't want to hear. There's some things I don't want my family to hear. There's some things that I don't want my friends to hear. And that's some of it. It's just not necessary. It's unfortunate. But we've talked about on the show as well, Mike, this world is just continuing to spiral downward into moral decay, and will continue to do so. And we as Christians just have to stay vigilant and put on the armor of God and do our best to be vigilant and continue to look up.
So don't watch out, look up. Let's say we turn this to a brighter note there, Jody. Talk about WFC.
We're going to do that. We're going to talk about WFC when we come back for these messages. Stay tuned. Hello, wrestling fans. The Gentleman Jody Powell here. Are you searching for an engaging speaker for your next church event, civic meeting, industry conference, or a company-wide motivational session? Well, look no further. I'd be honored to bring energy, insight, and inspiration to your event. With experience as a 2022 Toastmasters World Championship of Public Speaking semifinalist, I know how to connect with audiences, both large and small. Whether it's an intimate gathering or a packed auditorium, I'll deliver a memorable and impactful message tailored to your needs. Visit today at www.jodypowellspeaks.com to explore my keynotes, talks, and trainings. Let's make your next event unforgettable. Book me today. You'll be glad you did. Welcome back, fans, to Falls Count Anywhere. And Mike, it is time to turn to some more positive professional wrestling, and that is the world of wrestling for Christ and Saturday Night Praise and Power Hour. And boy, I got to tell you, it was an interesting beginning to the show. Last Saturday night on Saturday Night Praise and Power Hours, we got the update on the American GI, who was brutally attacked by Dylan Dollar and Travis Roberts, the Foundation, in the middle of the ring after a match with Travis Roberts. Travis Roberts won it fair and square. He speared GI, pinned him 1, 2, 3. Kudos to you for that. But that's all the kudos you get for that, because after that, it was Dylan Dollar coming out with a chair. They slide the arm into the chair. Dylan stomps on it. And unfortunately for the American GI, the damage was very severe, and GI had to have surgery on his shoulder, and we got an update from him. Not only before the surgery, we saw him being wheeled back into the surgery room, but he had a message for the Foundation after the surgery as he was leaving the Pineville Medical Center in North Carolina, and he let the Foundation know he's coming back. Give him a few months, let him rehab, let him recoup, and he's coming to repay. And me personally, I can't wait. And I think it's time this commissioner steps up, does their job, suspends these guys, fires these guys, strips them of the World Tag Team titles. These are actions unbecoming of champions, certainly unbecoming of representatives of Wrestling for Christ. And I won't get too high on this high horse, Mike. I've said it before, but if this commissioner doesn't do something, I promise you something will be done.
And who might be the one behind that? Something that will be done, Chief?
Well, I would say fans would need to tune in to Saturday Night Praise and Power Hour to find that out, because they're not going to get away with it. The American GI is a legend in this business. He represents all that is good with this country. He represents all that is good with being a Christian man, and didn't deserve what he got. So, vengeance is mine, says the Lord, but, the Lord also works through all of us. So we'll see what happens there. I'll tell you what else is happening in WFC, though, Mike. Perfect Vision is on a roll. Man, they were in action in the ring, taking on Alan Price and Jeff Paul, and two young guys that are new to the WFC. Jeff Paul, this kid was like 6'5", 6'6", well built, kid, just great talent in the ring. But I tell you, Perfect Vision making kind of quick work of Price and Paul. And they're on a roll. They're on a win streak. They're vying to prove to this commissioner that they deserve to be in the WFC tag team title hunt. I think they do. It'll be interesting to see how that comes about, considering the fact that the Conquerors are actually the number one contenders for the tag team titles. I kind of get the feeling the Foundation's ducking the Conquerors, because we say that week after week after week, and yet they never get their title shot. So I don't know. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's good to be friends with the commissioner, Bub.
Well, apparently it is. Not everyone even knows who the commissioner is, but apparently they not only know who the commissioner is, they know the agenda, and the commissioner seems to have their best interest at heart, as opposed to the best interest of what's going on in the WFC. Speaking of what's going on in the WFC, one thing that I have no clue as to where we are and what's going on with it is the Television Turmoil Tournament, the contents of the briefcase. We heard so much about it toward the end of last year, the first part of this year, and now the tournament is in turmoil because we've got competitors in this tournament that have suffered injuries. We've got people that just aren't showing up for their match. I mean, it's chaos. I don't know what's going to happen with this briefcase, but I know it's burning a hole in my pocket. I hope it's burning a hole in the pocket of the commissioner, and we're going to get to the bottom of it soon so we can find out what in the world is inside that briefcase.
You said it's chaos. Would that be Kenny Chaos, formerly of High Voltage back in the WCW days?
Wow. Kenny Chaos. And you had to reach back deep in the recesses of the laboratory to find that name. Kenny Chaos. Wow. Okay. It is Kenny Chaos, for lack of better terms. But, Mike, it goes to show that, in my mind, that if you're going to be the commissioner of an organization, of a wrestling organization, you kind of have to be present. You kind of have to be there. And so, this lead from afar model is just, it's perplexing. And I think in some ways, and I think we see it here with this Television Turmoil Tournament, this briefcase, whatever's inside, it can lead to things not being followed up on, things not coming to fruition. And here we are wondering still what's in the briefcase. Well, not only what's in the briefcase, but who in the world is competing for this briefcase now? And, if it were me, if I had my way, if you want to get into some fantasy booking for WFC, the Mad Dog Nathan Sawyer deserves to be at least in the finals for this thing. He is one competitor that has shown up and that has knocked down every competitor that has been put in front of him by this commissioner. Now, he went so bold as to say he deserved a shot at the world title, and he got that last week. Finally, I think a fair shot without Travis Roberts being the special guest referee. Shane Austin proved to be a little too much for Nathan Sawyer. But Shane Austin's proven to be a little too much for just about everybody. Incredible world champion. He's having a great run as champion. If you don't believe him, just ask it. Yeah. Yes. He will tell you very quickly. It's very much our pleasure to be in the presence of Shane Austin, the WFC World Heavyweight Champion. Who's not in the presence of Shane Austin has been the Carolina Dreamer, as this commissioner continues to say Dreamer has to earn his shot, his rematch at his WFC World Heavyweight Championship. And I say it's his. Dreamer lost the triple threat match. I understand. He lost it fair and square. He lost the title, but he was never pinned. And rules or no rules, Mike, there's something about losing a title and not being pinned that's different than if the man puts your shoulders down on the mat.
Yep.
So we'll have to see where Dreamer falls out in that regard. He had Ken Magnum in a match a couple of weeks ago, got the win via DQ. Apparently that's not enough either. I'm not sure what Dreamer has to do in order to get the rematch, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. And fans can tune in to Saturday Night Praise and Power Hour right here on Abundant Television every Saturday night at 6 p.m. You should tune in not only to see Perfect Vision, not only to see the WFC champion Shane Austin, but to see exactly how the Foundation is going to get their comeuppance, because it's coming. Fans, stay tuned. The best part of the show is yet to come. Finding tomorrow, right after these messages. Hello, wrestling fans. The gentleman Jody Powell here. And I want to put you onto two. Oh, hello, wrestling fans. The gentleman Jody Powell here. And I can't tell you how much I love this devotional written by my partner on Falls Count Anywhere, the mad scientist, Mike Buchanan. He wrote this book called Feeling Down, Look Up. You want to get your copy today? It's on Amazon. So you're going to want to search for Feeling Down, Look Up by Mike Buchanan. And it's got verses, it's got stories, it's even got a place here to make notes. It's fantastic. Check it out. You'll thank me later. Hey fans, the gentleman Jody Powell here, and Easter is coming. And whether you do Easter baskets or you just like to give nice gifts, give your friends this, Feeling Down, Look Up by my good buddy Mike Buchanan. Get your copy on Amazon today. Don't give them Reese's peanut butter eggs. Give them this. Send me the peanut butter eggs. Delicious.
Welcome back, wrestling fans, and especially our Finding Tomorrow fans. Hopefully some of y'all got a chance to see the gentleman on The Clash last week, where he and Chris Whaley and Jeff Dixon did a phenomenal job, as always. If not, you can find it on YouTube. And speaking of, just real quick, we certainly appreciate all the fans that have been listening to us and The Clash, so don't think that you're not appreciated. Speaking of listening to us, over the past several months, you've heard us talk about men needing help and not knowing how to ask it. But Jody, you and I were talking before we came on the show about what if, and I'm not an extrovert, I just fit one on TV. But what if men were looking for people to help? Men, walk up to a walk up to a man you don't know and say, hey, are you new to church? What can we pray for you about? What do you need? Or, and you came up with this idea, Jody, why don't you share your idea for how to expand that?
Well, Mike, it's not only just asking some unfamiliar faces in your church how you can pray for them or welcome them to your church, but it's also looking at those around you in your environment, whether it be at church or work or wherever, that may be in a greater need. And I'm talking about the elderly. I'm talking about the widowed. I'm talking about the less fortunate families. The springtime is here, and with spring comes warm weather, but it also comes yard work and to-do lists and honey-do lists. And, I don't know about your church, but in mine, there are a lot of honeys without people to do their list. And so this is just an opportunity to really do what the Bible instructs us to do, and that is to take care of the widowed, and that is to care for the orphans, that is to care for the less fortunate. If you know a family in your church that struggles to live paycheck to paycheck, maybe throwing on a couple of extra bags of mulch from Lowe's and going to their house and mulching a flower bed. Just something like that, something that doesn't take a lot of time, it doesn't take a lot of energy or effort, but it is so powerful and impactful to those around us. We want to know how to get help so often because we live inside our heads here. But how often do we think about what can I do? What can I use my talents for to help others? Because these talents that we've been given, whatever those talents are, those are talents that have been given to us by God. And they're not talents for us to sit on and to keep to ourselves. They're talents for us to share with the world. So whatever it is, maybe you're good mechanically with things. Maybe you build things. Maybe you enjoy growing things. You enjoy gardens. Whatever your thing is, and maybe it's not something outside. Maybe it's something inside. Whatever it is, though, find ways to share that. Share that with people that need it, because being nice, Mike, being kind. You know how much that costs you?
Absolutely nothing.
$0, my friend. So just sharing that kindness and spreading that special talent that you may have to those who are in desperate need for it.
Yeah. And, don't just look inside your church. If you see a neighbor, and you find out that they've just lost someone, husband, wife, doesn't matter. Men, let me rephrase that, because I don't want to blanket men. This man sucks with dealing with grief. I've been dealing with it for a freaking long time, and I ain't figured out how to do it yet. Men don't want to talk about it.
That's right.
You see a man that's lost somebody, don't bake him a cake unless you know what you're doing, or have your wife do it. But try and approach him and just say, hey, I don't have the words, because we don't, but just, here's a cake. Wanted you to know we were thinking about you.
Yeah.
And then back away.
Yeah. Plant the seed. I mean, we talked about that a little bit last week, Mike, just planting a seed. And it's not our responsibility to grow the tree. It's our responsibility to plant the seed, and God's word, God's love, God's understanding. The Holy Spirit comes in and grows the tree and waters it and fertilizes it and leads them to a place where they can learn and they can grow. And I love what you said. Don't just focus inside the church, because we do that sometimes a little too often. That's our comfort zone. It's okay to go up to someone in church and say, hey, I'm praying for you. It's expected. And so there's no uncomfortableness around that, right? But try that with a neighbor that hasn't been to church in 20 years. Knock on the door and say, hey, listen, just had you on my mind and wanted to know if right here on your front porch I can pray for you. And the worst thing they could do is say no. Then you know what you do? You turn around, you thank them, wish them well, go back home, and you pray for them anyway.
Absolutely. Yeah, and for our social media people, take one or two people, maybe a day, maybe a week, and just those that you haven't talked to for 3 or 4 months or 5 or 10 years, just say, hey, so-and-so, was thinking about you. Just wanted to let you know I prayed for you today.
Yeah.
You don't have to put in the details. Just send a direct message as my personal opinion. That way you're not putting on their page so it doesn't draw attention to them, so they don't feel uncomfortable. I do want to drop this in real quick to try and keep our brothers and our sisters comfortable. Men and women, be careful whenever you ask somebody of the opposite sex to do something for you.
I was just about to say this.
Where you can, have your spouse, if you're married, be there with you. If you're not married, grab another brother or have another sister with you, because you want to avoid all appearances of evil.
Yeah. It's one thing too, if you're single out there and you're a guy and you're single and you want to reach out and you want to help someone, you want to help a family, reach out to the husband. Connect with them on Facebook. Don't reach out to the wife. Reach out to the husband and say, hey, bud, just want you to know I'm praying for you. What can I do for you? And conversely, like Mike said, if you're a single guy and you want to reach out, there's a single lady that's in need, just come with the purest of hearts and do it in privacy, so that there's no innuendo or there's nothing read into it. Because before you do anything like that, Mike, I think it's always a good idea just to pray.
Absolutely.
Pray and ask God to give you the right words, the right approach, because God knows the entire situation. And if you're a married man, do not do anything like this without first talking to your spouse. It should be something that you guys do together. It should be a concerted effort from husband and wife to reach out to someone, whether it's a couple, whether it's a single person, whoever it is. And that way, there's absolutely no wondering or questioning about it. Keeping that pure heart at the front of this and doing this for the right reasons is just as important as actually reaching out and doing it.
No, I agree with that. And I know we're running out of time, but this is another one of those situations where you really don't want to bunch out. You want to look up for those in need that the Lord's leading to you.
Yeah.
What do you say there, Jody?
The Lord will put them in your path. That's for sure. All you have to do is, like Mike said, look up, pray to God, ask God to bring someone in your life that you can use your talents to help. And I guarantee you, God will put someone in your path and you will know exactly how to help them. And one way that I can help you, fans, is to encourage you to stay tuned, because coming up next, right here on Abundant TV, Chris Whaley, Jeff Dixon, The Clash. Stay tuned.